AudioJungle.
Hello, Twitch viewers! That's Wayne. It doesn't help that I briefly got distracted by something I forgot to undo. There we go. And once again, hello, Twitch viewers! Ashley Wiensong here, always searching for new stories and dreaming new dreams. And happy St. Patrick's Day! Or night, whichever it is where you're living. Anyway, obviously by now you've probably realized that tonight is not a gaming night. Instead, I am pretty much going to be baking an Irish soda bread. It's something I actually started last year since I figured it would kind of save cost on buying the bread, since, let's face it, we all love the stuff, but we don't want to also spend $5 on a loaf of bread that it just has a few extra ingredients towards the normal one, at least I think. Anyway, long story short, I'll be making Irish soda bread, and considering how quick it is to actually put together the ingredients, and how long it takes in the oven, which is close to an hour, though it's roughly between 35 to 45 minutes tops, and I doubt this stream is going to last that long, but you never know. Afterwards, I will be actually trying my hand on another recipe, but it's something different. Long story short, they're called Irish potatoes, but they're actually a type of candy or a cookie or something. And the reason they're called Irish potatoes is because they actually are molded into a shape of potato and get coated with cinnamon to give it a dark coating. Interesting in itself, and admittedly, somebody at work did actually bite some and the rest of us had at least a taste of it. I'll admit, pretty darn good, though a little much on the cinnamon. Probably my preference, of course. Anyway, at least before that, especially since I found at least 2 different recipes for said Irish potatoes, let's actually get to the Irish soda bread. So now we get to this. And as you can see, about the little mess here, that's because I had already made another Irish soda bread, which is actually going to go to my sister. Reasons, not enough said. And also, I am actually using an old recipe version in an old Betty Crocker's cookbook. It hasn't failed me yet, as far as I know. And come to think of it, how old is this thing? Somewhere between 1969 to 1986. Hey, if it works, it works. Anyway, let's actually get to it. For starters, you are going to want to first make sure you gather all the ingredients you need for your Irish soda bread. But then again, that's for anything you're making. Oh, and if you're hearing water running in the background, that would be my brother giving himself a bath. So I do apologize about that one, as well as probably going to have to leave real quickly at some point to make sure everything's alright and when I have to turn off the water. And there goes my tablet. What the heck? Oh well. Tonight I don't exactly need that anyway. Anyway, as I was saying, you are definitely going to want to make sure you have all of your ingredients for whatever you're making. And in this case, for the Irish soda bread, we are going to be using margarine or butter softened, all-purpose flour. Do not use self-rising flour in this recipe. I'm sure there's a pretty good reason for that one too. Sugar, baking soda, baking powder, salt, cup of raisins if desired, and I knew I was forgetting something because I forgot the raisins, and the last ingredient, buttermilk. Sounds a little weird, but there's a good reason for it. One moment, because I do have to get this thing out of the fridge, and thank goodness I am literally right next to the fridge. Ugh. My own fault for forgetting about this, though, since I was in a rush to get everything together. Well, that and setting up the computer, so to speak, since honestly, it has been ages since I've done this kind of stream. And I do mean ages. In fact, if you guys don't mind, I am going to quickly check on my brother to make sure everything's alright. Okay, got the raisins and the buttermilk, and at least before really starting, and though this is going to be a second time for me, I'm going to quickly wash my hands. And also a little note for everybody who are interested in cooking or baking, whatever, make sure that if you have long hair, tie it back. Trust me, you do not want to risk the chance of any hairs getting into your food. I mean, some people might not care about it, but it is kind of a disgusting thing in your food. Be right back. Technically I'm not leaving the room. I'm just quickly washing my hands, because that's another thing you gotta keep in mind whenever you're actually cooking or baking. Keep your hands sanitized, so this way no germs or dirt or whatever gets into the food itself. And let's face it, especially with this whole COVID mess, nobody wants to risk the chance of getting sick. There we go. Now to dry off the hands. People might think there isn't a lot of work into this cooking thing, but there is. And I do mean there is. Anyway, let's really get to this. And good grief, I am forgetting everything. Because the recipe also calls for the oven to be heated at around 375 degrees. So let's get that started before we get the ingredients together. And thankfully, it should give us plenty of time to get it all together while the oven is heating up. Especially now that it's around 20 minutes since the stream started, technically. So let's actually get to this. Cut margarine into flour, sugar, baking soda, baking powder, and salt with pastry blender. And we do have our blender right here. There are those who prefer doing it by hand, and I'll admit, for certain recipes, I am one of them, but for now, we're definitely going to need to use the mixture for this one. So, at least before we add the butter, to which I am actually using pure Irish butter. Doy. It helps if I try to remember. This is actually unsalted pure Irish butter, and probably might as well since there's already going to be some salt in this recipe anyway, so best to keep it to unsalted butter for now. Anyway, let's get to everything else. So, and I already got my measuring spoons and the measuring cup. And where's the tissue? Ah, yeah. So this way I can wipe off any excess powder or whatever. First off is the flour, which calls for 2.5 cups. And since this is a half cup, we're actually going to be scooping up at least 5 scoops of this. So, I can't lift it because I pushed it too back. Oh well. I'm sure I'll fix it later. 1, 2, 3, 4, and 5. Alright, there's our flour. And might as well wipe this off while we're at it, especially since, granted, it does call for at least 1/3 cups of raisins. We'll actually be using this again to gather the raisins. Probably be much more than necessary, but hey, sometimes you can't. Considering that it's raisins, it's kind of like chocolate chips, to be honest. Like, you can probably add or lessen it depending on how much you actually like the stuff. There we go. That takes care of that. So now we need to add 2 tablespoons of sugar. Where did I put... Shoot, where did I put that thing? Oh, don't tell me I did... Yeah, I didn't. One moment, I forgot to bring the sugar around. Oy. Seriously, I'd lose my head if it wasn't attached. Anyway, 2 tablespoons of sugar. 1, 2. And there we go. And since we don't really need it, well, you know what? Let's leave it here for now, since there will be a brief be right back screen going on when I get done with this portion. So I'll worry about cleaning everything up later. Let's see. We also need 1 teaspoon of baking soda, 1 teaspoon of baking powder, and a 1/2 teaspoon of salt. First, let's get the salt out of the way. And there's our 1/2 teaspoon of salt. There we go. And now, for the baking powder, come on, there we go. That's 1. And 1 to go before I add the butter to the mix. And I just sounded like a snake that time, didn't I? That would be my dumb luck. And wipe off the excess powder, because the next ingredient is baking soda. There we go. almost perfect. Ooh, and I spilled some. My own fault. Oh. You know what? That's gonna have to do. Especially since we're already risking spilling some of this. There we go. There. Remember, folks, always be careful. There we go. And now we are going to add the butter, which calls for 3 tablespoons. Let's see. Tablespoons. Ah, here we go. Because, funny enough, this one actually has a little tab that, well, if you could actually see it, to show how many tablespoons there are that you can actually cut off. And right now, we are going to do a quick bit of measurement. Just a quick one, because honestly, it's a little tricky the way I ended up cutting it for toasting my bread. Enough said. Let's give it that. Okay, so now that I got that, so 1, 2, 3. So there we go. And there's our 3 tablespoons. And according to the recipe, I need to cut it into the flour. Now, I don't exactly know what they mean, but I'm going to assume they mean by squares or little cubes. And granted, I might be wrong, but it has worked in the past for me. And obviously, this afternoon when I made my sister's Irish soda bread. Well, they'll actually go in there. There we go. There we go. And my brother just walked by, is now going upstairs. Which is okay. I am going to let it go for now, but I will be checking on him. And it makes sense considering that I did turn off the water on him since it was at a pretty high level. I kid you not. He will keep the water going even when it's overflowing. And I mean really overflowing. Alright, and that should do it. And according to the book, needs to blend the mix until the mixture resembles fine crumbs. And when they say fine crumbs, they mean fine crumbs. Alright, let's leave that there. Oh. After this, there we go. And brace yourself because it will fly. Or not. It works. So there's that. And what I can see of the oven, it is at 325 degrees so far. So we are getting close. Let's see. And afterwards, we are going to be stirring in the raisins and just enough buttermilk so dough leaves side of bowl. I kid you not, that's exactly what the book says. Though, by the amount of ingredients they actually have written down, it's supposed to be about 3/4 cup of buttermilk. And, wait, 3/4? Crap, did I goof up on something? No, I did not. Okay. Sorry, sometimes I can get a bit of a panic if I think I'm doing something wrong. But thankfully I didn't. Because, as I was about to say, sometimes when you get a measurement like that and you don't know what that is, or at least in my case, I have to at least look it up online to see if there's another way to measure something like this. And for what I found out, it can also be measured in tablespoons, which is actually about 12. Though I also still had to add a bit more buttermilk to make sure it actually took on the form it's supposed to. And thankfully I did. Oof. And there's going to be a lot of buttermilk left over after this. Oy. Let's see. So far, it is looking good, especially considering how soft the butter was. So, I think it's ready. I think. Because it looks me pretty darn fine. And worst comes to worse, the raisins will help to mix it up a bit more. Well, because when you think about it, the raisins as a food are very tasty, but in this form, it can probably help to at least loosen up the butter a bit better, since, let's face it, the mixture is doing a good job, but it might not get all of it. There we go. And let's add a little bit more. Just to give it a real good amount. Whoop. Hold on. There we go. And the thing beep, which means the oven is ready for when it's time to put the bread in the oven. So far so good. Okay, now for the buttermilk. We will still be adding the 12 tablespoons, but depending on how it looks afterwards, I probably will be adding more free-handed, but very slowly, because put too much, it will get gloppy. Of course, that's true for any recipe, so word of advice, be careful when adding ingredients, especially if you add too little, it's not going to take on form. Add too much, it's really going to get wonky, like really wonky. Like if it comes to liquids, like I said, it's going to end up being really, really gloppy. Let's see, there's 2 tablespoons. 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8, 9, 10, 11, 12. Okay. We've got it all in there. And it looks like it's working, but at the same time, it's not. Here, let me show you exactly. See that? It looks crumbly, but it's supposed to be sticking a bit more. So, we're going to add a bit more buttermilk. Just a little bit more. Okay, is it working? It looks like it, just a little. So a little bit more. There we go. Perfect. Oh. Good grief. And, whoop. Good grief. Sorry about that, folks. Okay, there we go. There we go. And this next part is going to be a little interesting since we are literally going to be going about this old style. And I do mean old style. So let's move these 2 items, like do a little switcheroo. So this way you can actually see what the heck I'm going to be doing next. And as I said, this is actually something I used earlier for when I made my sister's Irish soda bread. So forgive the messiness, but at the same time, it is technically still another Irish soda bread. So it should be good to use again. I mean, it's kind of like making cookies, and you're using the same baking sheet. wait. Let's clean this up and what? Let me quickly bring this to the trash and this to the sink. Because I definitely don't want too much distractions. There we go. And now, according to the recipe, we have to coat the bottom with flour. Now, granted, depending on the surface you're going to do this on, I personally still would actually use the cooking pan or cookie sheet pan. So this way, you don't get any messes on your counters or whatnot. And it is a flat surface. And plus, when you think about it, the edges here will at least protect your main surfaces for if there's any spills. There we go. So, in case I haven't mentioned it, the recipe calls that we coat the bottom so this way we can, what's the term again? Turn dough onto lightly floured surface. I know, this is actually a bit much, but there's a reason I'm doing it like this too. And then afterwards, I'm going to be kneading the dough for at least about 2 minutes, which is why I also have my cell on me. So this way I can use that as a timer. In fact, you know what? Let me get the dough out first. If it'll let me. There we go. There. Ooh, this one's definitely going to have a lot of raisins in it. Again, though, it all comes down to preferences. Kind of like a chocolate chip cookie. And I know there are some Irish silver breads that don't have raisins, but it does give it a good amount of sweetness to it. There we go. I'm trying not to get too much flour on this hand, so this way I can use that to set up the timer. Okay. Now, at least this is if I remember correctly from last year how it's done. Basically, make sure the dough is now covered in the flour, so this way it's easier to knead it. And you'll see what kneading's going to be, or what it means. And now, to set up the timer, sort of. Blah, 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 select. And since the recipe calls for 2 minutes, let's make it until 8:45, just in case. A bit much, but hey, you never know. So now, we are going to start kneading the dough. And this is actually exactly how bread is supposed to be made. You're basically smushing it and forming it, basically making sure it's going to be either soft or firm, depending on at least the kind of bread you're putting together. It's almost kind of like kneading the clay when you're about to make a little figurine. So it's probably no wonder why I don't mind this part. A little rough, but hey, at least it's a good way to relieve stress. Because let's face it, especially with anybody who's probably going through a bit of cabin fever, they're going to need some way to relieve some stress, even if they can't go to the gym and basically punch their frustrations away. So this is actually a good way to relieve some of that and get in some learning experience with cooking, or in this case, baking, especially for bread, because we don't even know if eventually there's going to be some sort of bread shortage, or there's going to be a price rate of the bread suddenly going up, or heaven forbid, you can't even go to the store to get bread because you're suffering from the COVID. So, when in doubt, improvise, and in this case, make your own bread. Oof. Oh, Good thing I caught that before I got into the dough. And yeah, you can see that it's starting to get a little firm, but that's okay. This is why the kneading is actually pretty much needed. So this way, when you're about to take form or to shape it, it will probably at least stay put. At least from what I understand by experience. And how many minutes? Yep, there we go. That would mean the 3 minutes is up. So now, since we got that done, I'm going to be shaping this into a round loaf, and it's got other things on here. It also says to place it on a greased cookie sheet. Now, funny enough, we're actually going to be reusing this. And I know there's quite a bit of excess flour on this, so we're going to try to get rid of the extra flour. My own fault, but hey. At least it works, more or less. Okay. Note to self, when baking on stream, have a little trash can on hand. Because hey, you never know. Oh boy, my hand's covered in flour now. Alright, one moment. Okay, now, I've removed as much as I could, so, at least before the forming, because again, we're going to be using this again. We're going to be spraying the bottom with Pam. There we go. And there. Now. Luckily, this thing's pretty much formed enough as it is. Yeah, basically just shape it into a round loaf. There are going to be cracks, I won't lie about that one. Here we are. And now, probably a good thing I didn't get all of it, because I honestly almost forgot to lightly coat this butter knife with flour, because the recipe also calls that we make a cross right on top of the dough. At least about maybe half an inch. At least if I understood that correctly. Yep, half an inch. And there we go. And it's probably to help for when the bread needs to expand a bit. And so this way it won't explode. At least this is going off by my own assumption. There we go. And voila! I've yet to put it in the oven, but this is basically how one can make Irish soda bread. At least following the recipe in an old Betty Crocker's cookbook. So, now, going to be putting that in the oven and washing my hands. And I'll also start setting up for the second thing, the Irish potato candies. So for now, intermission. So, I will be right back. And I'm back! Sorry for keeping you guys waiting, but there were several things I have to do as well. Because other than checking on my brother, making sure everything was alright with him, setting up a movie for him as he asked for one, I also had to set up for the next pretty much dish, so to speak. And obviously, I kind of moved to a different spot in the kitchen, so this way, there's a bit more elbow room. I will admit that one. And obviously, I did not have time to pretty much set up the camera as I probably would want, but it's probably might as well. Especially since, at least this way, I can also keep an eye on the Irish soda bread, which reminds me, ooh, it is rising nicely. Anyway, obviously, we are actually going to be trying the Irish soda, well, not Irish soda, Irish potato candy, which the recipe itself, I found on all recipes, a good site, especially if you're going to try different versions of the recipes, which, ironically enough, if we have enough time to try this one, granted we'll have to skip an ingredient, mainly the nuts. There's also Grandmom's Irish potatoes, and this recipe is pretty different from the other one, since, to put it short, this one is a non-bake recipe. This one kind of is, sort of. It's actually done in a saucepan, so to speak, and again, this is if we have enough time to try this one, and that's a very big if. We'll try the different version of the Irish potato candy. But for now, we're going to go for the one that I have been looking to put together. And for this recipe, it actually calls for 1/4 cup of butter, softened, 8-ounce package of cream cheese. Strange, I know, but that's what it says. And thankfully, this one is about 8 ounces, so we don't even have to worry about cutting it up. A teaspoon of vanilla extract, 4 cups of confectioner's sugar, which we got right here, and no, it is not the flour. Long story short, everybody has their own way of storing dried contents like the flour, sugar, whatnot. Ours, when it comes to the flour and sugar, happens to be these, especially when everybody will go for maybe the big bags of flours and sugar, but you have no way of storing them without the rest of them bursting open. Let's leave it at that. So, everybody's got canning jars and whatnot. We got our Mason's jars. Anyway, there's also, in this recipe, at least 2.5 cups of flaked coconut, and I knew I was going to goof up on some. I forgot to wash the cup for that. But, anyway, we do have the coconut flakes. So, we're good on that. And for the coating, ground cinnamon, which we also have right here. Now, at least before we get to this, I'm going to quickly wash that half cup thing. Because, like I said, I kind of glanced over to see what I needed, but not to see if I had all the tools. There it is. Let's give it a good wash. Because this isn't going to involve flour. It will involve sugar, and I doubt we're going to want to mix that in. There we go. And at least on the bright side, it gave me a chance to dry my hands again, or wash my hands again, because, once again, always keep your hands sanitized. No matter what you're planning to cook or bake. And to dry this off along with my hands. And there we go. Now, first order of business, directions. In a medium bowl, which is what we're going to be trying this for. Actually, you know what? Let me get a bigger bowl just in case. Because other than, I'd rather make sure that we are not about to overflow. Especially since the recipe did call for at least 4 cups of confectioner's sugar. So, and I know this is going to be weird, but concerning that the cream cheese is technically a bit firm, we're going to be using this to mush it around. Anyway, beat butter and cream cheese together until smooth. So, let's get the cream cheese in first. Double lemon cheesecake bars? Might have to try that one of these days. Might. Anyway, we're not here for that. We're here for the Irish potato candies. Or at least one kind of Irish potatoes. And kill of it is, I did try looking for the traditional Irish potato candy, but I guess it depends on the person. Because I know there are a lot of versions of Irish soda bread, so there we go. Oh, there's still a little bit more. Might as well try to use up as much as I can. There we go. Throw that out. And how much butter? 1/4 cup. I don't know how much 1/4 cup is. So, and thankfully, 4 tablespoons. Thank goodness I never got rid of that page. So now, move that away a bit because that's kind of the loppy one. Let's see. 1, 2, 3, 4. Mark it like so. There. And obviously, once again, we'll be using the pure Irish butter. So we'll leave it here for now. Now, to mix it all up. And usually, this thing is actually used for mashing potatoes, but when in doubt, improvise. Especially since no way I could even use a whisk for this part. Anyway. Gotta get it mixed up nice and smooth. Definitely a good thing I'm doing it like this, because, like I said, even if it seems soft, the cream cheese is actually still somewhat firm to cut through, depending on how long it's been in the fridge. There we go. At least so far so good. Let's get this knife out so this way we can, yep, there we go, there we go. Probably might as well. Go. Okay, about one more time. Then it should be nice and mixed. There we go. And I think that should do the trick. To be fair, this is my first time actually trying this recipe. Well, trying this kind of bacon, so to speak. So, now we've done that. Add the vanilla and confectioner's sugar. Beat until smooth. So, it's probably a good thing that we got this thing, since we're definitely going to have to beat the sugar in. Add the vanilla and confectioner's sugar. And it calls for 4 cups. And it says that this is, once again, a 1/2 cup. That would make it 8 cups. Oh, Well, then again. There we go. And so far, there's only close to 20 minutes left for the Irish. Oh, wow, that thing is rising. And I think I did goof up a little bit on it. I think I might have made it too big. Like, I didn't flatten it enough. You'll see what I mean momentarily. Anyway, let's get in. Oh, I forgot there was a scooper in here. Because otherwise, how are we going to refill our sugar bowl? Okay. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. There we go. There's our 8 cups, or 4 cups of sugar. Now, for the vanilla, which is 1 teaspoon. Where did I put that? Oh, right there, on the plate. Might as well bring this over here, as well as this. This way it's out of the way. Here's our 1 teaspoon. And there we go. There. And we're definitely going to have to keep those separated because supposedly we're going to be needing the tablespoon for the cinnamon. Supposedly. Alright. Give it a good mix before we start smashing again. Which means I'll be needing my butter knife again. And to be fair, again, this is my first time ever making something like this. So, bear with me. So in a way, it's a learning experience for all of us. I do mean all of us. Here we go. This is going to be one sweet candy. Seriously, we got all kinds of sugar in this. Well, almost all kind. And we have yet to add the coconut flakes. And at least it seems to be mixing in nicely. I mean, to be fair, it is known as a candy instead of a cookie, so it probably would make sense for all this sugar. Almost. Go. Oh, there we go. Now we're getting somewhere. We are getting there. We are getting there. Good thing my brother asked for Quasimodo. Now it's starting to get to be pretty firm. I don't admit though, it's a good way to work out the muscles in the arms. Go. And it's only about 16 minutes before the bread can probably come out, but I am still checking on it. Since it's supposed to stay in until the past 35 to 45 minutes, or it becomes a kind of a golden brown. Which afterwards, we're going to be coating the outside of that Irish soda bread with butter. Like, not like that. You know what I mean. Oh, you'll see what I mean when I get to that point. Ooh, this is turning out nicely. And you guys can't see it. Give me a moment to move this camera a bit. So this way you can actually see. As if I'm correct, it's supposed to pretty much look like this. Almost like a mashed potato, but not. Which, honestly, kind of makes sense when you think about it, because it is called an Irish potato candy. So, the inside, you are definitely going to want to make it look like an actual potato. Definitely a good thing I decided to grab this thing. It really is ironic too, since this is actually used to mash potatoes. At least if I remember correctly. Granted, I've only ever used this thing for said mashed potatoes, and I'll admit, it's been ages since I made mashed potatoes, like real mashed potatoes. So one of these days, I probably should make them again. And that should do it, I think. So, what happens next? Use your hands if necessary. Mix the coconut. So now we have to put in 2.5 cups of flaked coconut. We'll still use that, but time to add the flaked coconut. If I could get this bag open. Come on. Oy vey. You know what? Give me a moment. Because when in doubt, especially since you don't want to accidentally burst the bag and have the ingredient flying all over the place, improvise. So, I'm going to quickly take this. And kids, if you're watching this, do not try this without a parent to guide you or help you out. There we go. Now we got it open. And that goes in sync. I mean, granted, it's technically still clean, but just in case. So now, we are about to add the coconut flakes. So, let's hope I had enough of this. That makes 5. 1, 2, come on. 3. I swear, if it turns out I could have just dumped the whole bag in there. 4. I do apologize if my hand is blocking the camera. Ooh, 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 ooh. There we go, 5. And, interesting enough, there's actually enough in here for at least another half a cup. But we're going to try to stick to the actual recipe. So, now we're setting that aside. And now, to mix in the coconut flakes. Put this down for now. Keyword, for now. I know we are definitely going to need that butter knife out again. interesting. There we go. Really is ironic I'm using something that's supposed to mash potatoes in order to make Irish potato candy. Oh, sorry about that. As you can see, it is really looking like in the inside of a potato, or at least a mashed potato. There we go. And I believe that will do the trick. At least I hope. So, the next step to making this little treat, or at least the non-cooking version of it, is to roll balls into potato shapes and roll it in the cinnamon. Now, it might actually be a good thing that, at least in the beginning, I was planning on using this bowl for the mixing. But, considering that I still have this thing out, and apparently we need to roll the cinnamon, or the balls into the cinnamon, we're going to be using this thing. There we go. I think this is the best I can do to get whatever excess batter off. So, into the sink it goes. And now, we're gonna back this camera up a bit. So this way you can actually properly see what I'm about to do next. And that went flying. Using a butter knife as a stirring spoon. Hey, when in doubt, improvise. There we go. Now, granted, it called for a tablespoon, but might as well pour in a good amount. There we go. It's probably a bit much, but we are going to need enough of this to make sure that the potatoes in question, well, potatoes are completely covered in the thing. In fact, we will still use the tablespoon, but we're going to use this as a scooper. There we go. And now, to roll them up. Ooh, it is sticky. And since it is basically supposed to be potato shape, we don't have to go perfect and make them into round balls. Just make them into whatever shape you think a potato is. Now roll it up in the cinnamon. Heck, might as well keep whooshing them up, so this way there we go. And supposedly, where did, oh, that's where I put it. Place on cookie sheet and chill to set. Well, there ain't no cookie sheet. I do apologize for that one, but we do have a plate, which I will be storing the Irish potatoes on. Which, to be fair, I don't think we actually need a cookie sheet. At least I don't think. Only because, considering how much of the batter we ended up making, it probably doesn't make sense to use a big cookie sheet that, let's face it, probably won't even fit in the fridge. Especially after corned beef and cabbage dinner. When we can just put it on a small plate, especially since the bottom is basically going to be coated with the cinnamon, so it should be good. Keyword, should. This is going to be one interesting candy. Yep. Definitely good thing doing it like this. Because if you don't pay attention, some spots will end up popping up, so to speak. There we go. Yep. Now, supposedly, this is supposed to make 5 dozen. Dang. Don't know about that, but we'll play it by ear for this part. Because to be honest, this is more of a first attempt and a tester for this kind of cooking. And according to the oven, the Irish soda bread has about 4 minutes left. So hopefully we can get this done before I have to take that out. Because otherwise I'm going to have to, you know what, let me check the... Ooh, it is coming along nicely. Like, really nicely. I can't wait for you guys to see this thing. Granted, I think I kind of goofed up and made it too big to where it's going to end up rising a bit. Like, I should have made it a bit more flat when I was forming the thing. Again, you'll see what I mean when I pull the thing out. There we go. Ooh. Whoop. Bit too much for that one. There we go. Yep. Another coating. Here we are. And I gotta say, baking itself can actually be very therapeutic. I mean, you're moving your hands a lot, you're focusing on the task. It's almost like you're cooking your problems away. Almost. Obviously, there's still life to deal with, but at least for the time being, a lot of your frustrations go into your bacon and whatnot. Especially if you're going to do it with bread. Because again, that will require muscle when you're kneading said dough. Granted, again, to me, it's more like kneading clay when you're about to make a little figurine. Haven't done that in ages, and I do mean ages, but it's honestly no different from one another. There we go. About 2 minutes left for the Irish soda bread, which means I will have to stop this making these things momentarily, eventually. But hey, at least we're getting pretty darn far. And, at least according to the recipe, it is going to be going in the fridge to chill in order to set. Although considering what time it is, oh, yep. So we definitely won't be getting to that second version of the Irish potato cookie or cake or candy. You know what I mean. Either way, we're not going to get to the second version of this recipe, but at least for tonight, we did manage to at least get to this version. The one I was looking forward to making either way. And 1 minute to go. for the Irish soda bread. Oh boy, am I glad did I decide to wing it with the cinnamon parts. Like, seriously, this was gonna take more than a tablespoon's worth. Like, way more. Hey, bud. My brother walking by. And thank God he's got a smile on his face. Seconds. Which means after this one, I am gonna have to stop and to yep. Stop and stop. Especially since you want to overcook the Irish soda bread. There we go. Put that there. Now, I'm going to quickly wash my hands before I take out the Irish soda bread and move this stuff, honestly. Go. There. Now I have to dry my hands. And might as well use this to pull the Irish soda bread out. Now, granted, I'm just going to show you guys what this thing looks like. But afterwards, at least other than... Oof, better grab another butter knife. And boy, am I wasting them at this point. Anyway, other than coating the bread itself with the butter and... I know it sounds weird, but it does help to give the layer a good, interesting taste. But afterwards, I will be putting it on the side for it to cool down and continue on baking the Irish potatoes. And here we are. And oh boy, pretty different from what you've probably be expecting from a store, but that, my friend, is an Irish soda bread. Probably left it in there for too long, but I have a feeling it's going to be worth it. Anyway, let's get to the coating. Especially since if we want to get rid of all the excess butter on top. Here we go. And again, we are using the pure Irish butter. Ooh, ooh, ooh. Here we go. Hey, bud. What you up to? Whoop. Yeah, sometimes he'll be in here with me seeing what the heck I'm doing, or in this case, making. And, I will admit, he's a stinker when it comes to the soda, or Irish soda breads. Like, he will sneak for, well, actually any bread. So, after this thing cools off, I'm definitely going to have to lock it up. Because he will gobble this thing up. Right, bud? Still, at least it means that he likes it. So, I'll consider that as a win if that ends up happening again. There we go. Probably cut up a bit more than I needed, but that's okay. Especially since it's just bread, and considering that I tend to use the Irish butter at least only once a year for toasting and whatnot, it should be good. And yeah, I'm definitely going to have to remember to make the bread in question a bit more flat. Here we go. And that should do the trick. I hope. So now, I'm going to put this in the sink, put this on the side, and now I am going to move the Irish soda bread to a spot where it can cool off. But let's hope my brother doesn't go after it while it is still hot. And I forgot to... Oh, well. There we go. Let's give it a test to make sure it moves. Just a little test. Oh, good. Probably good that I checked, because it did get a little stuck at the bottom. Just a little, but at least I checked. There we go. And now, to continue with the Irish potato candy. And I gotta admit, I'm kind of excited to try this stuff. I mean, the store-bought stuff that I tried, that was pretty tasty, though a little bit much on the cinnamon. That's my preference, though. But, concerning that this is going to be homemade, it does leave one to wonder how this is going to actually be different from the other one. Because honestly, at least from what I saw of the Irish potato that someone bought and left in the break room, that didn't need to be cooled or stored in the fridge. Though, at least from what I can understand, these do. Well, it does make sense considering that it's got cream cheese in it. And that does need to stay cold. And oh boy, we're going to lose room in this thing, aren't we? Well, at least we're giving it a try. Go. And again, it doesn't hurt to at least keep forming your potato as you're coating it with the cinnamon. Here we go. Definitely a good thing I'm using this little scooper. There we go. This is actually pretty relaxing. Since you are using your hands a lot, you're basically making something that hopefully everybody will enjoy. You're keeping yourself occupied and not go bunko crazy. I probably said that wrong, but oh well. And I honestly have no idea what else to talk about as I'm constantly doing this. I do apologize for that one. To be fair, unless I actually know what to talk about or how to talk about it, usually I'm actually pretty quiet. Ironic, I know. And I do mean ironic. Here we go. Might as well put this knife in the sink as well, because we don't actually need this anymore. Oof. There should be enough for another, I'm going to say half dozen or so. Which means I might have to pull out a second plate. Oh boy. To be fair, with all the leftovers in that fridge, I don't know if I can even put more in there. I mean, that's kind of the whole point of me using this plate. Because seriously, I have no idea if this is going to fit. I mean, I can try to make room in there, but again, I don't know if it'll work. And now I'm probably making these things a little big. Oh well. Again, this is more of a tester to see how well these things turn out. So, at least, as all things go, this was an interesting experiment. Let's leave it at that. Especially since, again, I've honestly never tried a non-bacon recipe like this before. I mean, I've made French toast, I've made pies, I made cookies, obviously. I've made cakes. I've never actually gotten the icing down since I seem to have honestly misunderstood that one. I've even made quite a few main course dishes. One of them being a mushroom steak, both the minute and main. I guess depending on how much time you have, hence why there are two different versions of the recipe in the Old Betty Crocker's cookbook. When I say it hasn't failed me, I mean it has not failed me. At least for most recipes. There's a lot more that I'm pretty sure I'm gonna want to get to one of these days. I mean, granted, it is an old cookbook, so there are certain recipes that you're not gonna find in there. You will have to either look in other cookbooks or look it up online. And I'll admit, while it's great that you can find recipes like this online, sometimes it's better to just look it up in a book. I mean, not for nothing, the books seem to be becoming a dying art of sorts. Like, cause it's actually kind of good or great that we have internet and whatnot to help us find certain things that we're looking up. But at the same time, it's not the same as holding an actual book and feeling the pages and actually being able to read what you need to read and not suddenly go through a, hey, look at this. You want to try this idea? Hey, look at this. You want to try this item? I mean, I get advertisement is the way to get people interested, but at the same time, it's also annoying as heck when you're trying to focus on one thing. And I see at least one person left. And to be fair, it is pretty darn late. Here we go. Thankfully, we might not have to take out another plate. Because I think, at least after this one, there's about 2 or 3 worth of the Irish potatoes to make. Just about 2 or 3. Possibly 4, depending. Especially on the size. Let's put that back there. There we go. There we go. Not as coated, but you know what? That's okay. Because for these, I do actually want to try not to put too much cinnamon. Because the ones I did try, yeah, I kid you not, there was actually a bit much cinnamon, even if it was just for the coating of the treat. And funny enough, that did actually have coconut flakes, hence why I immediately jumped to this one, or this recipe. Let's see, now we're 43 minutes, so by the time I am done with this, it probably will be time to end the stream. And it wouldn't surprise me if his movie was over by then too, which might as well. Especially since it is getting close to 10 and I do have to give him his night meds. I know, I'm probably going to be about 30 minutes late giving it to him, but... And that would be my mother, of course. Be right back. my bad. Sorry. Thankfully, that was a short call. Especially since I do want to get this done. And with how, gloppy my hands are getting. Okay, ooh, there's actually enough for one more potato. I guess these things were actually supposed to be tiny, but the way I'm making them, yeah, I'm probably doing it wrong form-wise, but that's okay. Because once again, this is my first time making these Irish potato candies, and I'd rather make sure that everybody will actually like them first before I actually go for a perfectional form, so to speak. And there we go. That would be our last Irish potato. So now, let me quickly wash my hands. Hey, bud. And everything is pretty much done. And obviously I'll put all the ingredients away and all the dirty dishes in the sink. But yeah, there's our Irish potatoes, which I will pour in the fridge momentarily. And now that the butter is completely melted and dried, our Irish soda bread. And hopefully it'll be just as good as I made it last year. Hopefully, at least according to my family. And now that that's done, actually, let's pull this up. There we go. And yeah, that's pretty much it, so to speak. Because let's face it, I didn't have anything else planned for this far. And granted, it is also close to 2 hours, and you guys know my rules. Only stream for at least around 2 hours and then end it there. So, yeah. Either way, I hope you all enjoyed the stream. Granted, it wasn't gaming. And you got a kick out of me baking. Well, sort of. Like, baking on one hand and just putting together items and doing a non-baking recipe in another. Apologize for no game tonight, but probably might as well. And I hope you all had or have a very happy St. Patrick's Day. And with that being said, hope you all have a good night. Again, a happy St. Patrick's Day. Stay safe. And this is Ashley Wayne's song, signing off.